The House Beyond the Swamp. My name is Nick Mason. I'm 35 years old. I live in Boston in a private house on the outskirts of the city. I teach literature and live a pretty ordinary life. Some might even said it boring. I've hardly ever told anyone this story, mostly because I didn't believe it myself. Until yesterday. Yesterday, I received a letter, a real one. Paper with a stamp and an ink signature. These days, that alone is strange enough. There was no return address. Inside was a single sheet of paper, yellowed with age, like it had been sitting in a drawer for 20 years. Maybe it really had. I opened the envelope and pulled out the paper. It was a child's drawing. It showed a house, a forest, a muddy path through a swamp, and in one of the house's windows, there was a face. The face had no eyes, just blank white circles. At the bottom, written in a shaky child's handwriting, my handwriting, were the words, "He lives in the wall." I dropped the letter from my hands, and it fell to the floor. My heart raced in my chest. My hands trembled with fear. At that moment, I remembered something. It happened a long time ago, one summer when I was 7 years old. My parents were divorced at the time, and my mom took me away for a couple weeks to stay with her aunt. She lived alone in an old wooden house out in the boonies in Louisiana. Her name was Agatha. It was a strange place, very wet from the swamp, and backwoods as if cut off from the rest of the world. The house stood at the edge of the swamp. It smelled of mold and dried herbs and something else, heavy, metallic. I was given a room upstairs, with a narrow window. At night, all I could see out that window was darkness and the silhouettes of twisted trees. The first night I hardly slept at all. Something was scratching in the wall, quietly like claws. Mom said it could be mice that lived near the swamp. The next night the sound happened again. However, the sound was closer to the headboard of the bed. On the third day, I saw him for the first time. I was sitting on the floor in the hallway, drawing, while my mom and Aunt Agatha were in the kitchen. From the wall, where there was a huge gap between the boards, something was looking at me. It looked like a face of some kind, pale, gaunt, like an old doll. It had no eyes, just two empty, glowing ovals, and a mouth, thin, stretched into a smile. I screamed. My mom came running to my scream, but by that time, it was gone. And there was nothing in the wall anymore, just a big gap between the boards. I said there was someone in the wall. Mom tried not to show her fright, but I could see the fear in her eyes. From that night, I started sleeping with the light on, but it didn't help me. Because he knew I had seen him. He would come in when everyone was asleep. I couldn't hear him. He didn't make a sound, just stood in the corner of the room, or sitting by the window. Sometimes I would wake up feeling like someone was staring at my face from a few inches away. On the fifth day, I drew him. It was the only way I could keep from going crazy. I wanted to document that it was real, that it wasn't just a dream. And on the back of the drawing I wrote, "He lives in the wall." I hid it under the mattress. On the sixth night, I woke up to him talking. His voice was like a rusty nail through glass. I don't remember the words, just the feeling that he knew who I was, knew all my fear. Sometimes he could speak in my father's voice, or my mother's voice. Sometimes it wasn't a voice, but a whisper. That went straight to my brain. When the lights came on, he was gone. He disappeared instantly, leaving no trace behind. I told Aunt Agatha about it. To my surprise, she reacted calmly to my words. She wasn't even surprised. She just said, "You're the first one to see it in the last 10 years. I didn't know what was worse, the creature itself or how calmly she said it. The next morning, Mom packed her things. We left and never came back. I made myself forget everything that had happened at Aunt Agatha's house. My drawing was still there, in that house. I was sure it was gone. There was no doubt that. The house, the wall, the drawing, and that strange face were all in the past. Before I received this letter, that night, I couldn't sleep. My mind was jumbled with thoughts. I thought, how could I have this drawing after so many years? How could it have survived? I drank my coffee, mug by mug, and stared at the drawing. It was my handwriting, and the pencils were the same. I remembered sitting on the floor and drawing. The grass, the swamp path, the skewed house. And there he was in the window. At precisely 0400 hours of the night, the light switch clicked. The lights in my apartment went out. I froze with fright. From the corridor came a slight scraping sound. I recognized the sound. I'd heard it 28 years ago at Aunt Agatha's house, behind the wall. I ran to the light switch, turned on the light. There was no one around, and I knew it had found me. Today I opened my laptop and started writing this story. I don't know why I'm doing it. Maybe to record it in case something inexplicable happens to me. Maybe to warn everyone about it. Or maybe it's just because I'm afraid. Afraid that if I don't tell them, I'll go crazy. I'm not alone anymore. I hear footsteps. I hear someone scraping against the walls of my house. I think he's getting closer and closer. He doesn't just live in the walls, he lives in the memory, in fear. In that second when you wake up and can't tell if you're alone in the room. If you're reading this, don't answer letters without a return address. Do not open old drawings, and never, ever go to the house behind the swamp.